everything that we partner with, boots on the ground, outside activities, bringing our communities together, working with our nonprofit at risk, working with our faith-based communities and extensions of our partnerships and working with the police department. That's what this unit is designed. And for great volunteers like yourself, Ms. Varner, all right, your community working together, helping each other to spread the word, helping to stop the violence. We always have credible messengers. We want to increase the reach for our resources as well. We are working with citywide, so you'll be seeing us on board a lot more now, working with Mr. Stokes and all the presidents and throughout the communities now. All right, thank you for the information. Yes, ma'am.
All right, Dwayne. Dwayne, you have a question or a comment? You can unmute yourself. Thank you for joining.
Yes, can I be heard?
Yes, you can.
Good evening, ladies. The question I have is, I don't want to say the organization that I'm the president of, but we have issues with a drug house. What does it take to permanently close down the drug house?
So I want to give, how you doing, first of all?
Good.
Good. So I'm going to give everyone who's listening a number, and that's the 313-224-DOPE line, 313-224-DOPE hotline. That's our line to report narcotics activity. It can be anonymous if that's what you choose. And they will be able to get some good information. However, if there is some information that you have that you want to discuss with me, I can assure you that I can get you to the proper entity. You see my number on there. You can either call me or you can send me an email if that's your preference, and with all the information on there. Or we can talk and I can take that information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry, was there another question? Was I muted? I'm so sorry.
Charlotte, you can now come off mute. Oh, I'm sorry, I got muted somehow. There we go. You're unmuted now.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for taking your time out to speak with us this evening. I am president and co-founder of Happy Homes Community Association on the north end of District 7, over by Linden and Schoolcraft. And I don't know, and I even had a conversation with our NPO, but just in the last few months, it seems like the neighborhood is just, we have hot spots where they dump, but it just seems like the whole neighborhood is just turned into a dumping ground, basically. And then it seems that we're having more issues with, people that are on drugs, and they're just doing weird stuff like bringing grocery carts over to the neighborhood and dumping stuff in the alley. And just, I don't know, it's just seems to be totally out of hand. And so, like, as I said before, I spoke to my NPO the other day because he was driving through the neighborhood, and we were just talking about how bad things have gotten. It's not just in our neighborhood. It just seems like all over the city, it's just garbage everywhere. So I was just wondering, is that something that, with this illegal dumping, is that something that you all are looking into? I know we have the Blight team, and, maybe we all work together. We might be able to figure something out, but...
So Kim, I think you with your district managers, the district managers could probably help her as well as the neighborhood police officers. But you're welcome to give me a call if you need to set up something a little more strategic. And also, Are you working with your block clubs?
So yeah, I am basically the only block club that's in that area. We have other block clubs that we're associated with. Actually, we have an unofficial coalition, but most of the other block clubs are on the other side of the 96 freeway. It's Burwood. Well, we have Northwest Block Club Association that's abutted to us.
Okay,
But,
if you can you send me an email and maybe we can set up a cleanup
okay.
in those hotspot areas, and we can get the MPOs and whoever will from the city to help us with that.
Also, Charlotte, have you talked to your district manager? So
yeah, you know, it's just a vicious cycle. So like I would say for over the past 3 years, even when Mona was still in office, we would do the drive-through. And that's how we actually got a lot of the houses torn down. But we do the drive-through. They send people out to clean up, and you know, it's just after a while, it just gets back junky again. But I don't know. Like I said, just
if you talk to Alexia too, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize. If you talk to her, if these are sites that are continual sites, then we might want to talk about putting some dumping cameras in those spaces. So if it's the same place all the time, if you talk to her, then there's a potential of putting some dumping cameras in there as well. And I'll just ask you to be as vigilant as you sound like you are, and continue to do that in reporting this, because the more we get the reports in, the more evidence that we have to do some kind of dumping cameras or to put some other things in there. So we got to keep reporting them. So I would say too, along with your MPOs, sending the email as Second Deputy Chief asked, but also continue to work with Alexia on this and possibly getting some dumping cameras in that area. And then Motor City Makeover is coming up. So if you have some specific sites, your Motor City Makeover is, let's see, ours is the 3rd, 10th, the 17th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I did reach out to Alexia to see when we could set up another ride through. Because she actually rides through with me and makes note of
Right.
everything. So yeah, and the makeover is just kind of hard to get people to help out with that. So I hadn't actually done it in our area in a couple of years.
Let me just say, talk to Alexia on this one. So start with a few people and ask for some volunteers this year and see if we can get you some volunteers to help you in some spaces. Once people start seeing that there's some activity like that, then sometimes they'll stop dumping, and then sometimes you'll get more activity later on in the year. So don't just count that out. But talk to Alexia about some opportunities for doing that as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. And thank you for all your diligence in your community.
I'm trying. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, that was our last hand for this portion. I thank you again, Second Deputy Chief. I know you're really busy. I really appreciate you being on and always being that team player and helping us to make sure that our city is great. So we appreciate you. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. We did have one more gentleman who was having a hard time raising his hand.
Okay.
Jim Donatel. If we could try to unmute him. Let me see. Hold on, Jim. Okay, can you unmute yourself, sir?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Great. My name is Jim Donatel, and I'm calling in from the city of Oakland, California.
Oh.
And I'm calling in because I have been studying all of the great work you are doing as a community to improve public safety, and you are a role model with respect to how the mayor's office is working with the council, with the police department, with the fire department, with the Shot Stopper program, and ceasefire. And your results should be saluted. And I thank you, and I am working to bring what you are doing to the city of Oakland.
Oh, well, wow. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you being on. Thank you so much.
You muted.
You muted.
I'm sorry. Could you hear me? I said, well, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you noticing. I appreciate the compliment, and that, we're working really, really hard. We think that our residents, definitely appreciate all of these things that we're doing, and we want to make sure that they have the quality of life. So thank you so much. We appreciate you being on, and continue to come on and share all the great things.
And Mr. Donatel, I just want to add, the police department can never do this by ourselves. It takes our wonderful community, our block clubs, our district managers. It takes all of us for the community spirit for us to be where we are today. So thank you, everybody that's listening. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. It has definitely been a team. Yep. Thank you. It's been a team effort. Thank you so much. Okay. I don't know why my computer keeps muting myself, but okay. All right. Well, thank you, Deputy Chief. Again, we really appreciate you. And we hope to see you again soon, and we'll be talking. So thank you so much for being here today. All right. So next we do have a segment about domestic violence. Commander McCord of the 12th Precinct brought this to my attention, and it was an incredibly good presentation, and it's, concerning things that are happening across the city. And so I've asked her to bring the team here today. I don't know, Commander, if you want to introduce Detective Adams and Miss Wesley, or if you just want me to.
Sure, I'll do it. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can. Thank you so much.
Great. Let me introduce myself. It's not our normal meeting, but hello, everybody. I am Commander McCord. I'm the commander at the 12th Precinct. The 12th Precinct is located right at Woodward in West 7 Mile. So the topic that we want to bring to you today is so important. And right now in the 12th Precinct, we have saw a slight uptick of aggravated assaults. And when we did a deep dive into it, what we saw is that we're having more domestic violence incidents that are occurring inside of the home. So we put together a team. We have Detective Adams. She's of the domestic violence unit, which is citywide. And also our VAP counselor, Laura Wesley, who's going to present to you today on information regarding what domestic violence is, the cycle of violence, and then also provide some resources to ensure that the community is aware of what's available to them. The challenge is with the victim. We were trying to get the victim to understand that we're here to support them and that we do have resources to get them out of their current situation and not to be afraid to go ahead and follow through with charges. But I did want to point out, because Deputy Chief Hope talked about the citywide lows that we're having, and it's true, we are 6.6% down in aggravated assault citywide, but whenever we see a slight uptick in any community, we want to address it, quickly. So that's why we're bringing this to you today. We have Detective Adams and Counselor Wesley. Detective Adams, you want to go ahead and start your presentation?
Yes, thank you. So hello, everyone. I'm Detective Adams, and I work for domestic violence in the city of Detroit. I do have a quick PowerPoint that I'll show everyone, and then if there's some questions, I can definitely answer those. Can you go to the next slide for me, please? So this is our mission statement. When, we have this in effect so that our victims are aware of what we're trying to do and what needs to be done. So the goal of the Detroit Police Department Domestic Violence Units is to stop intimate partner violence in our community by serving as the epic center of a multidisciplinary criminal justice effort. These efforts will be used to prevent what has been identified as the most frequent and less reported crimes across the nation. So, like I said, I am one of the detectives that work in the domestic violence unit. There's plenty of us here. So if there's anyone who feels they need to talk to one of us or may have even came across someone of us in an event, that's what we're here for. Next one, please. So what is an intimate partner violence? This refers to the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, and or other abusive behaviors as part of a systematic pattern of power and control perpetrated by one intimate partner against another. It includes physical violence, sexual violence, threats, and emotional abuse. So these are what we are getting a lot of when we have these cases. Here in domestic violence, we deal with intimate partner relationships, including marriage, child in common, or live together. Even though domestic violence is still considered domestic violence with partners, if you don't live together, if you're just dating, those are handled more so with your precinct. The intimate partner where you're married, have a child in common, or actually live in a house together will come to domestic violence unit. Next one, please. I kind of moved a little quicker than I should have, but this is basically what I just said. So spouses, former spouses, couples residing together, or formerly resided together. Also alternate lifestyle partners, child in common, elder abuse, and malicious destruction of property, and violation of PPO orders. So for some of our statistics, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men in the United States have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. Over half of domestic violence murders in Michigan are committed with guns. On a typical day, domestic violence hotlines receive approximately 21,000 calls per day, which making that around 15 calls per minute. An estimate of 18.2% of women in Michigan will experience stalking in their lifetime. 72% of murder-suicides involved an intimate partner. 94% of the victims of these crimes are females. So here's our circle of violence. This circle basically represents the repeat of the violence. So it'll start in this honeymoon phase. That's like the beginning where the abuser might, do something to his victim and then would make up for it. Then it goes into another one where we have our tension phase. And it's like, maybe he's upset, but I don't want to upset him more or her more because then it'll escalate and then we get into our violent phase. And the circle just keeps going, like it keeps going around. So we want to identify these and before it happens. So if you feel that you're maybe in the honeymoon phase or you feel that it's moving to the tension phase, we need to get some kind of assistance in there so that it doesn't get to the violent phase. And here are warning signs that we have been seeing, which includes jealousy, constant puts downs, telling the other person what to do, explosive tempers, threats, possessiveness, preventing the other person from doing what he or she wants to do, mood swings, making false accusations about the other person, history of violence, isolating the other person from family and friends, seeking financial control over the other person, checking cell phones, emails, and other social media networks. So this wheel here just shows what some of the triggers are, what are being used. Can you hear me? I got muted. I'm sorry. Okay. So back to the wheel. We have the power and control. So they'll use things to be over you, to make you feel as if there's nothing you can do unless you do what they say. This is just someone trying to control or put power over you. And these are some of the things they use. They'll use their children. They'll use the economic abuse, intimidation, emotional abuse, isolation. These are a couple of things that we have been seeing. So the purpose of this is basically to send the message that for those who may know someone who's involved in domestic violence, someone who could be also in a domestic violence situation, that we are here and we're here to help, and that we want you to know that those things that I talked about, that could be happening, you can speak up. You can let us know. We want to assist you in this. We want to help you get personal protection orders. We want to help you get away from situations that you don't need to be in. Next, please. The safety plan, I feel, is very important, especially for those who may be experiencing these things. So always keep important numbers, whether you have them written down or you memorize them. I know with cell phones, we kind of got away from that. We just, it's always in my phone, but sometimes you might not have that phone. So memorizing 1 or 2 important people phone numbers is always a good thing. Make reports. That's another thing. If something is happening, whether you feel it's important or not, but if you were abused in some kind of way, a report should be made. Call 911. Go to a police station. Make these reports. This is a paper trail. This lets us know what is happening to you. Keep friends and family close and make sure that they can come and help you, or they can call 911 for you if you can't get to that place. Have an escape route. And try not to be in isolated areas if you feel that someone is a threat to you. And here are some of the resources that I have. If anyone needs to take down some of these numbers, these are pretty much, you have the 911, of course, you have the domestic violence unit where I can be reached at, you have our victims assistance unit, and also some other resources, and especially the hotline for domestic violence.
Okay, so you can see like right there, right? That's all I want to see. I just want to see the domestic violence slide. I've never had, a woman who I would consider like, a girlfriend per se, like, someone who we went through those phases of, the honeymoon, the tension phase, and then the abusive phase. I've never been through that, right? I just kind of always looked at American women as just being like problematic. Like the presentation was, it came in like, and not to be so typical or, judgmental, but it came through as like, very biased, very lopsided. It's about, the woman is being abused, the man is not being abused. It was kind of like that. So like, when you look at how people in America, right, in the communities that we live in, right, the black communities, right, when you look at the brown and black communities and you say, how do we stop domestic violence? How do we stop it from escalating? And what you find out is that the men or the women who are committing these atrocities, abuse, murder, defamation, they're coming from homes that are headed by women. Like no one can deny that. Like the last time we had men and women in a household was like during the 60s when everybody was coming up from the South, the 40s, the 20s. When everybody was living on farmland. So like you look now and you see all this stuff that's happening, like the people from back then will be like, why is this stuff, why is this stuff even happening? You know what I mean? Like, why are we having conversations with people, who are in units? Like, you think, right? You go back to the 30s, right? Like, who was really a policeman back then and who was really, being put forth into these, detective units? You know what I mean? Like, what was that really all about? Like if you go back then, like you lived in a town and you had a acreage of land, 6 acreages of land. There was a town sheriff. There was no police department. There was no detective unit trying to figure out, why this woman got, beat or why this man got lynched. That stuff automatically went up to the federal level. That stuff went up to the FBI centers. Wasn't no police trying to, talk to the, you know what I mean? Like, so this is what I'm saying, really. domestic violence is something that, you know, again, it wastes public budget. It wastes public revenue. Police, they waste public funds. They really do. You know, like you look at how easy the environment is when you go to places like Kenya, Uganda, all these places. You look at how it is and you say, why can't that culture be mimicked in America? You know what I mean? Like you see, like in America, right? It's this thing where, you know, even women, right? They have this thing where it's like, it's an intimidation culture. You know what I mean? Like if a person doesn't agree with something that you have to say, you know what I mean? Like it's retaliation automatically. You know, so you can throw out the sense that you even have First Amendment rights. You know, you can throw out that, right? So that becomes a problem. Africa doesn't have this problem. They have mothers and fathers. You know, they have villages where, you know, they have council. So not only do they have bureaucratic council, they have chiefdoms. They have people working together throughout all intercontinental lines where they're solving problems as it relates to the issues of the people who live on those particular lands. America, it's a wasteland. You know, it's a wasteland. It's like you have all this funding and like there's no participation on a government level where you have, there for a second the screen went out. So you have no participation on a level, a citywide level where you have police coming out interacting with the community residents. They're not coming out, you know, shaking everybody's hand, you know, trying to meet the people who live next to their precincts. They're not trying to do that. They're riding by in a car, basically, you know, turning the sirens on if they see something because they don't really want to get out the car. But they're in a situation where they're trying to scare the community. You know what I mean? That's what they're trying to do. And you see it throughout America, right? In some places you don't see it in America, but it's like you have to be from those communities to really see like what is happening in those communities, where you may have a school who basically operates or communicates with the people who are there, right? You can see, like, you know, you may have a school in this particular district and the policemen who are at the council over here, they've been to this school, they've went to this school, they graduated from the school. Now they're on the city council. Now they're in the police department. You see stuff like that happens. But again, it's like, I think it's few in between when you see like this stuff actually working and it's actually helping people who live in some of these communities, because I don't think it is. You know, I don't think it is. There's a huge problem, you know. Take, for instance, right, you look at Inkster, right, just outside of where I'm at. You look at Inkster, you look at Detroit, and you say, like, what's really going on in these communities, you know? And it's a lack of communication. Like, before I started recording a video, I asked the lady, I said, how do you stop situations where residents get pushed through probate court, where, you know, you may have a person, you know, who may be, like in my case, right, 24, 26 years old, gets put outside the house. Now I have to go live at a shelter, because this actually happened to me, right? You have to go live at a shelter, or you may have to leave the state. I left the state and went to school. I was going to enroll in St. Paul College, but I ended up graduating from technical school. I ended up graduating twice with a degree in aviation and freight. Those who don't know what freight is basically railroad transportation. I graduated twice. So, you know, I come back here, I'm tired out of my mind. And you see, like, if you get in a situation where, you know, the cops get called on you because you're asleep at a bus station or something like that, and they appoint a guardian over you because you were considered incapacitated, which happened to me, right? Then what they'll do is they'll force you to take drugs. They'll force you to meet appointments, you know, and if you don't do any of these things or follow their standard, they'll put you back in these behavioral hospitals where you'll be in there for 3 weeks at a time and anyone can call the cops on you. This stuff has happened to me over and over. And it didn't stop happening until I bought my home. It didn't stop happening until I bought my home. And like, I still go through issues of domestic violence and abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. You know, if you don't come in on a rent at a price that, you know, will be suitable, right? You know, so they didn't compliment any of those things that were being discussed. You know, if you're having an issue with domestic violence, you're having an issue with any type of emotional abuse, behavior abuse, it's more than just it being gendered. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not women who are suffering through these things, you know. Like, I think that was kind of hyperbole, you know, because I can name instances right now where men, you know, are going through situations with women, you know what I mean? As far as like keeping the kids away from them and stuff like that. Like, so this stuff, it goes beyond just, you know, talking about, you know, the men are, you know, gunning down the women who they want to be in relationships with. Like, okay, if that's the case, you got to look at what's causing it, because it's women that's raising the men. You know, I've never been emotional to a degree where I felt like this woman, she's going to love me. She's going to do, no. I've never went after women to a degree which you see some of the men do, right? They're constantly with women, and, you know, you can see their relationships never work out. You know, the women agree to be in relationships where it's about sex. You know, they agree to it. I've never forced a woman to say, you know what, you're going to do this and you're going to do it that way. You're going to do that. No, I've never been that type of person. You know, if I'm in a relationship with the woman, it's going to be consensual. You know what I mean? It's going to be respectable. You know what I mean? And if we have that type of relationship where it's like that, then there's not going to be any verbal abuse. There's not going to be any pushing, shoving. It's not going to be any of that. And, you know, again, when you see stuff like that happens, a lot of the times these genders, they come from dysfunctional homes. You know what I mean? Like, to even keep, you know, a son or a daughter away from their father is dysfunctional in itself. And that wasn't addressed in his call. That's why I left the meeting. You know, I don't want to go to these type of meetings and, like, you know, I'm seeing the same people talk about these type of things. You know what I mean? Like, everybody see, like, when you look at the city of Detroit, right, you say, like, okay, where's the representation? Where's the affirmative representation? Like, where is it? You know? I don't see representation in African heritage, African pride. Throughout appearance, culture, tradition, language, I don't see it. I don't see it. And it's Africans who live here in this city. Outside this city, inside this city of Detroit. We're in what? We're in Royal Oak, Inkster, Ann Arbor, Battle Creek. We're everywhere throughout Detroit. Livonia. We're everywhere here. And we have no representation in the politics. You go to a place like Kenya, Uganda, you see how that government is ran. If you need something, the people is going to make sure you have it. As far as operating from a stick of there may be abuse on either end, the man don't allow it. The man don't allow it. So think about that. What's stopping a place like Detroit from actually getting the things done that they need to get done? It isn't funding, because they have the funding. It isn't funding. Because if you have to go into a deficit to address an issue, then you're just going to go into a deficit. You just are. You just are. So I'll go ahead and close out, man. I'm not going to be long on this. I need to catch up with some media in Africa because, again, like I say, man, Africa, that is my therapy. And that's what I like to keep an eye on. I love to look at African news, you know, that channel on YouTube and also on Instagram. I love looking at it. like when I'm able to get good news and like news that matters, right? News that matters. You don't have to worry about the stuff that happens in places like Chicago, Philadelphia, and Detroit, where it's like a shooting that's random here, a shooting that's random there. You got to worry about the stuff like where whole communities are being wiped out, or a void of, 30 Africans drowned in the ocean because they were trying to get across to Britain. Those are the things you got to worry about. You don't have to worry about, Lil Dante getting into a shootout with his ops. You don't got to worry about that, because again, these people, they come from households. It's just the mother. She doesn't want the kids around the father. So if that's the case, then what can you do about that? And you see that a lot with, in black communities where like the parents are at odds because, they can't agree on certain terms. It is what it happens to be. But, I don't think it has to be that way when we're talking about domestic violence, because there's people out here who are really suffering, because of identity issues. And some people haven't even found themselves. So it's like the conversation goes beyond just a 911 call and someone being abused. It goes beyond that. Ask these people who are calling into these shows, ask these people who are calling into these hotlines for domestic violence. Ask them like, what is your identity? Like, what are your pronouns? The people don't ask them that. Like, if you call into a detective office, right, and you're trying to have a conversation with them, they're going to get right to the point. I can't help you, but I can give you a number. That's exactly what they're going to do. I can't help you, but I can give you a number. And some people, if they're just brash, they'll tell you calling the wrong number. You need to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you need to call another number. We can't help you. They'll be brash like that. And that's the culture in America. It's not a family-oriented environment. You know what I mean? Everything is X-rated. Everything is R-rated. You know what I mean? It's not like that in Africa. You know what I mean? Everything is for children to prosper. It's for young adults to prosper. I don't get the feeling that it's like that here in America. Great peace, Yakoki.